Hi guys, welcome back to Miscellaneous Pleasures. So Premier League, wow. Uh, I mean, this is essentially United versus West Brom sort of like review of the game sort of video, but I will be covering like couple of other games. Like in about 8 minutes time, the Arsenal versus Leeds game is about to begin, and obviously we have Liverpool Leicester later today, which I will not be watching because again it's Indian Standard Time. It's at like 12:45 or something a.m., which is like very late in the night, and I have to wake up tomorrow early for work. Uh, I'll probably also be discussing. Yeah, I'll definitely be discussing the Spurs as a City game, Mourinho Masterclass. I mean, I don't even understand why people are surprised by the way Spurs are playing because this is Mourinho in his second season, and I mean, I'm not going to go out and say that Spurs are going to win the league, but it's not a surprise to me that Spurs are playing well or that Mourinho has found this sort of combination that is working, with Son and Kane and with people like Højbjerg that they bought. Sissoko is like, playing somewhat well. Your Dyer is doing well at centre back or CDM wherever he plays. So it's not a surprise that pieces are coming together in Mourinho's second season. That always happens. The, the thing that Spurs fans will be, worried about or would be interested in is how far this team can go, and because of the season that it seems to be at the moment, where there are a couple of teams which are not traditionally, strong, like your Leicester, your you could say Everton to an extent. I mean, I won't add Southampton to the list simply because I don't think they even have the first 11 that a Leicester or a Everton has. I mean, even Wolves to an extent have a somewhat of a good lineup, good shape. I mean, even ever since they have been promoted, they have been really good. But the thing is, yeah, especially the season that we are having with Liverpool having so many injuries, with Manchester City are just struggling. I mean, City are just struggling with creating goals, which is not something that you would have expected of them. And in a way, they're also having trouble. I mean, I won't say they are having trouble defensively, but the problem that they're having is a midfield issue where I don't think Rodri is a good enough Premier League CDM, especially his defensive aspects. And when I say defensive aspects, I don't necessarily mean the tackling or tracking back, but sort of like the defensive intelligence that a person needs to have, like anticipating things. I don't think Rodri is good at it, whereas Fernandinho was brilliant at it in the 2 seasons that they won the Premier League. So that's something that they are missing, and that's something that they had a problem with last season because Fernandinho was playing centre back, and they're having that problem again this season, which has not been rectified because I don't know why, but it has not been rectified. And they probably focused on their centre backs more than they focused on their CDMs, which is in a way understandable because I mean they had Stones, Otamendi, who both were highly questionable at various occasions last season, and obviously Laporte is back, and Ruben Diaz is a very good centre back. He's a very good centre back. I do expect him to do well. Um, and of course, Guardiola is going with this weird formation where Cancelo is not really a left back, so but he's playing left back and he's actually playing well. But then, traditionally speaking, he is playing the left back role, but in the game he's moving towards the midfield, and the Walker sort of, at times he bombs forward and at times he joins in the centre backs. So yeah, they're playing somewhat of a weird formation, which is not necessarily affecting them defensively, negatively at least, but it is sort of like having an impact on their attacking throughput. And also the problem that they've had till now is Aguero and Jesus. I mean, Jesus was back. He has been back since the Liverpool game, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, he scored there, but then he didn't do much yesterday. And yeah, and even people like Sterling and yeah, De Bruyne, they're not really achieving the mark that they usually do. So, having said all these things, I think the league is there for the taking for teams like Spurs, Chelsea definitely. Leicester with an outside chance simply because I don't think they have the depth in their team. If Vardy is out, I don't think Leicester are any threat to even like mid-table clubs. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how those things unfold. Uh, I mean, I wouldn't. Oh, I'm so sorry for the. Where is my phone? I don't know where my phone is, but it just had a notification. I don't think it was caught on the camera. Anyways, the point being, United, I won't add in the discussion simply because I don't think United are capable of getting 85 points, which is what I think the Premier League champion will at least get. I don't think it's going to be 80, 81 sort of season. I definitely think it's an 85 plus. And I don't think it's a 92, 93 too. Like, I think 90, 91 is probably the max. I don't think the champion is getting beyond that. But in the same way, I don't think the champion is going to get below that because I think your Chelsea's, your Spurs, like Mourinho, there's no way Mourinho team is not getting 80 this season. I think like Spurs are on course for a 82 to 85 sort of points tally. And it's just a question of whether there is somebody else who is capable of getting more than that. And I mean, once like your game week 30 comes up, like the last 8 games when they are left, it sort of becomes not just a game of like points, but also of like basically mentality. And that's what's actually questionable of Spurs. So that'll be interesting to see what happens if they get to that position. So enough of me talking about all the other Premier League clubs, and I think I should get to the United versus West Brom sort of thing. Um so yeah, I've just got this Premier League table lined up. I'll get back to later. Yeah, so this was a this game sort of reminded me of United under Jose in his first season, and to an extent, even like LVG era, where we basically dominated possession. And there were moments where I was like, you know what, we're actually playing well. Like, it was like if if the ball was there with your goalkeeper and it had to be put into the goal, if that was like one stretch of like it was, if that was like one situation, then I felt like United were actually doing good for the first 80 percentage of it. They were really coordinated. A lot of things were going well. I felt like, but in the last 20 percentage, there was just like a pass that was overplayed, underplayed, maybe a bit too much pace or lack of control or just a dribble gone wrong, things like that. And this is how I think the game like began. But then there were moments where United were just boring. Like, I wouldn't say they lacked ambition. I just think that the players that were there, they weren't good enough. Like, for instance, like I don't think Mata had a problem with the pace of the game, but I think the problem that he had was whenever somebody played a pass to him, it almost felt like the opposition left back or left wing or midfielder who was there marking him would get to the ball first. And I don't know if it was because of the pace of Mata. I don't think it was because of that. I think it was more about, you know, being in a position of accepting the ball. I don't think he was good at that. I mean, I may be wrong in interpreting that, but I don't think he was certainly not good enough to be in the first team. That was for sure. But I mean, people like even Matic, like I mean, I understand, right? Matic wouldn't have started yesterday if McTominay was fit, fit enough to start at least. he was sort of given a break because he played like, I think he played both the Scotland games full 90 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So he had to be given a break. So I didn't have a problem necessarily with Matic starting, but I was just wondering throughout the game if, I mean, again, if a person like Van de Beek would have done much better in that position, and when I say in that position, I don't mean playing the same role. I feel like Fred Fred played well, right? I mean, he wasn't bad. I don't think he was great, but he wasn't bad either. So I feel like, you know, back four with Fred, Van de Beek more like an eight, the sort of role that Pogba was playing um, after lockdown, that sort of a role with Bruno as your number 10. And this was a crazy stat, right? I saw yesterday, rather, I think I saw it today, that Bruno Fernandes created six chances in the game. And apparently, that was the highest by any player in this season throughout the all top five leagues. I mean, that stat was kind of like, I couldn't believe that stat, but I mean, it was going around the social media, so I'm guessing it must have been somewhat true. So yeah, I mean, obviously Bruno played well. I did think that the first penalty that, I mean, the penalty that West Brom got, like in the 46th or 47th minute or something like that, I don't think that that was a penalty. Uh, I mean, I have seen penalties like that being given in the past, but the interesting thing is there was a decision that was made similar to that yesterday. I'm just trying to remember which game. Yeah, it was the this game that Villa lost to, who was it? Brighton? Yeah. The 2-1 game. What happened was in like the 93rd minute or something, after Lamptey got red carded, there was a few seconds gap, and then a ball was played into the attackers, basically into the attacker, and he sort of dribbled and he got tackled inside the box and it was given penalty. But the thing was, the defender actually touched the ball before he tackled or had a contact with the attacker, and so the penalty was, I mean, the decision was basically taken back. And I feel like this is not a wrong thing, right? I mean, if the player touches the ball first, then surely that's a proper tackle. I mean, I do understand some situations where you make a ball tackle, but your follow through sort of like is potentially dangerous for the person who is receiving the tackle. And in those times, if you give it as a foul, or if you basically book the tackler, those are situations that I do understand. But yesterday, I don't think it was a penalty. And coming to the second penalty, right, the one that we got, I mean, if the year was 2015, I don't think that was a penalty. But since it is the year 2020, I think that was a penalty because basically, I mean, I don't know the exact interpretation of the rule. I don't think a lot of people do because it has been changed like a couple of times. I say a couple of times. I think it's done more than that throughout the last 2 3 years. What that has basically done is, I think everybody is sort of in a confused sort of state as to what the exact rule is. Initially, there was a point of time where basically, if the ball hits the hand, then the question that you would ask yourself is, was that deliberate or not? If that was not deliberate, in your opinion, then that was not a penalty. But then, obviously, that sort of had a lot of like, situations where you basically could not determine the deliberate, what's the word? Deliberateness of the handball. Like, so basically, what the rule change happened after that was that natural position, unnatural position, that sort of argument came into play. But then people are questioning, like, how can a person who is running and have his like hands beside his torso, like in normal running position, right? And if the ball hits the hand, then that's obviously natural position. But then penalties were given for that. And that was because the hand was away from the body. There was a lot of confusion regarding that. And obviously, there now the rule is, Yeah, I don't know if you can see the bloody sleeve. I'll try to enlarge this thing, right? So this is the sleeve, and if the ball hits below this, it's handball. If it hits above this, it's not a handball. And obviously, this along with the fact that your hand should be not away from the body. So the problem is what that does is even if the ball is hit from a very close distance and you go, you know what, the player had no time to react, it's like it doesn't matter. He still blocked the shot or he still blocked the cross. So I don't know the end result of this sort of an argument because at the end of the day, as I've always said, handballs and fouls are a lot of the times the interpretation of the person who is the referee for that game. And because we have 10 to 15 different referees throughout the Premier League, I'm just saying 10 to 15, the number might be 20 plus, or the number might be just 10. I don't know. The amount of referees that we have, all of them would definitely have a different opinion because we're all humans and all humans have different opinions. Even if ever so slightly, they still have different opinions on all the things. So I feel like, especially also the fact that under different situations you perceive different things very differently, so that's always going to give rise to your sort of inconsistent sort of decisions. So keeping that in mind, I don't think that was not a penalty, and I don't think it was harsh on the player because this has been happening for the last year or so. So from that point of view, it wasn't inconsistent. So and obviously the retaking of the penalty. I mean, there is no question there, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you can argue about the rights and wrongs of the rule, but the fact of the matter is, if there is a rule that is being put in place, you have to follow it. And that's probably the reason. Like, I saw a lot of United fans getting like angry about even Solskjaer did, and even David De Gea did when what was it? I think it was the Crystal Palace game, right? There was a Crystal Palace game where similar situation happened with De Gea, where he was basically like this much ahead of the line, and they were like, you know what? If it's only this much, then how does it matter? Well, there's a rule in place. Just because the ball is this much inside the line, sorry, not inside the line this much, you don't go, you know what, let's give that a goal because it is very this, like, this doesn't really matter. Just because you say, you know what, the distance is so little, let's ignore it, you can't do that. So I mean yesterday's one was like, you can't even question it. There's no, like, I mean, the guy was literally like a feet away from the line before the shot was taken. So I mean, yeah, there were no questions about that. In terms of gameplay, I mean, obviously, United have to do better, right? I mean, there is no question about it. United have to be doing better against sides like this. And the problem that happens is, if you take a Liverpool, wait, somebody scored? No, no, no. I thought somebody scored. So, yeah, the thing is, if you take the Liverpool or Manchester City of the last 3 years, even the City side of the last year, right? The thing is, if they have 11 players on the pitch, I mean, they obviously will have 11 players on the pitch. And let's ignore the goalkeeper for the moment. So they have 10 players on the pitch or the ground. Uh, if your right winger is not playing well for Manchester City, let's say it's Riyad Mahrez or Bernardo Silva, whoever is playing in that position, or for Liverpool, let's say for that particular day, Firmino is having a bad game. Like, everything he's doing is just not coming off. And because Firmino is having a bad game, what happens? I don't think Liverpool lose that game or Liverpool play bad in that game. Yes, their performance will be affected. Manchester City's performance will be affected by the poor gameplay of a Bernardo Silva or a Riyad Mahrez or somebody. But what will not happen is, in those teams, the other 9 players, or if you just take the attack, the other 5, 6 players who are part of the attack, they will still perform to their ability, and their performance and their gameplay will be good enough to get the goals. and wins that are required for a team that is aspiring to, be at the top. The problem with United is if Mata has a bad game, that's it. It's like the other players aren't yet good enough to hide players. Like everybody has bad games, right? I mean, you rarely have people who are consistent throughout and they are giving you 8s or 9 out of 10s every game. Even Bruno Fernandes, you could argue that, I mean, not yesterday, but there have been a couple of games in this season where he has been poor. He has been undeniably poor. And when those games come, you're like, okay, who is going to do the things now? Like, who is going to create? Who is going to pass? And who is going to carry the ball? That sort of a problem is what United are having, because if one of the players play bad, then it feels like the whole team is in trouble. And Leeds were close to scoring, but they didn't. So, yeah. So, yesterday, for instance, I don't think Rashford had a good game. I mean, he obviously missed a big chance, but, like, he wasn't bad. I mean, there have been games where he has been worse than yesterday, but for some reason, he is not the Rashford that he was before January. I wonder if it's the injury or what it is, because clearly after lockdown, what me and a lot of people noticed was Rashford was not running at the defenders. He was sort of like taking the ball and like looking around and then playing that sort of like a cross pass sort of thing to the right winger or Van Bissaka or whoever is there on the right hand side, and then like pass and play sort of gameplay and not just running at the defender and dribbling and getting past the defender. So, I mean, I thought that that was probably because he was just trying to work on that side of his game and that was what he was instructed to do. But I wonder if it's because of the injury that he had. Like, is it because of that, or is it because he has been told to do that? Because there was a time after lockdown where Rashford was playing well. He wasn't playing bad, but then whenever he was playing well, it was because he had Luke Shaw behind him. What that basically meant was Luke Shaw used to overlap and create space for Rashford to run in. And once Luke Shaw got injured, I mean, that was just trouble. And after Luke Shaw got injured, Rashford was absolutely shite last season. And I'm not going to lie, he was absolutely rubbish. Even this season, he hasn't been good enough. And obviously, the first couple of games, I do understand because of match fitness and the fact that none of our players had any. But he has scored a couple of goals. But even in the games that he has scored, there have been a lot of patches of play where he hasn't been good. And the problem that I have with some fans, the pundits, and all these people associated with football or United, the problem that I have is these people do not like criticize Rashford. When Maguire got like the whole summer incident happened with him and he had a couple of bad games, people are obviously criticizing him. But then when he sort of like played a game that he wasn't expected to, the people are going, you know what, you should drop him. Sosha backed him and he played well. Everybody was like, you know what, this is a sign of a leader, this is how you should play, blah blah blah. But then when I see other people doing this, when I see Anthony Martial he basically was our top goal scorer last season and he did not even take the penalties. And then we have people like Paul Scholes going like, you know what, United needed to sign a centre forward because Anthony Martial is not good enough. Well, mate, he is the best striker that we have got, and Rashford and Greenwood are absolutely rubbish in that position. Greenwood may be a very good striker, but I have like a couple of stats to show you, but I can't show that of Greenwood because I don't have them at the moment. But I will show them of Martial. The problem is Greenwood can't really hit the ball. And he's nowhere near physically good enough to be playing centre forward for Manchester United. And I mean, I don't even have to talk about Rashford because he has been a United player for the last 5 years or something like that. And we all know that his heading is absolutely horrendous. His hold-up play is absolutely horrendous. As a number nine, he had a very good spell when Solskjaer came in, but after that, he was horrendous. Last season, when Martial got injured in the beginning of the season, and Rashford had to play as a number nine, he was horrendous. And but then when Martial comes back and starts to play well, nobody gives him the credit. And that's what like pisses me off because last season the amount of goals and assists that he had was absolutely fantastic. And if I'm not mistaken, Rashford had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, goal plus assists, I think Rashford had three or four more than Martial. But the fact of the matter is he scored like 8 or 9 penalties. And I'm not saying that penalties are not important. Penalties are obviously important, and I appreciate the fact that at the beginning of the season, Rashford missed like 2 or 3 penalties. Actually, he did more than miss that, but he did score 8 or 9 right throughout the season, and that is important. But solely talking about the player's performance in the normal gameplay of the game, Martial was much better than Rashford, but then he never gets the bloody respect that he deserves. And this season, I mean, as like all players, he had a bad first couple of games. Even then, I felt like, you know what, he wasn't that bad, but then, yeah, there were games that he was bad at. And then the red card did not help him because that was not a red card and he was given a red card. And then he had a couple of good games where he was doing things that Rashford can only dream of as a number nine. But then nobody gives him the respect that he deserves. And I remember a time during the transfer window, before the transfer window, during lockdown, people are saying, you know what? And not when I say people, I mean the pundits side. They're supposed to be people with brains, but they don't tend to use it. They're going, you know what? Buy Harry Kane. Yeah, right. Spurs are going to sell Manchester United Harry Kane for 100 million. You're dreaming, mate. That's not happening. Like, sorry, that's not happening. There's no way Spurs are going to sell you Harry Kane, first of all. They are not going to sell you Harry Kane for 100, 120 million. And if you think United are going to pay 150 million for Harry Kane, if you think Ed Woodward is going to buy Harry Kane for 150 million, then either you are naive or you're deluded. There's no way, like, there is no other option in that situation. The only reason Sancho was like, people are saying, you know what, Sancho is coming, was simply because Sancho wanted to come and United were actually prepared to buy him. And Dortmund were willing to sell him for the right price, and the right price was not something United were willing to pay. They were actually willing to pay. There was a negotiation in place that was done and dusted, and then Woodward did what he does best, screw up stuff, and then Sancho did not come. But for people who were even contemplating the fact that Harry Kane was coming, you're deluded. And that's the problem with the pundits. How can you say that Harry Kane is a very good signing for Manchester United when we have had absolutely, you know what this is? This is zero. This is the proper right wingers we have had for the last 5 to 6 seasons. Manchester United is supposed to be the biggest club in England. I mean, if you take Liverpool, let's say, one of the two biggest clubs in England, United, if I'm not mistaken, is in the top three biggest clubs in the world, and even in number of fans and stuff like that. And we haven't had a right winger in 5 to 6 years. I mean, you have to look back, right? I mean, LBG sold Nani. I'm not sure Nani is a right winger, but you know what? Let's just take it. He was a good right winger. Di Maria, you could argue that he's more of a number 10 sort of player, but again, let's just take him as a right winger. After that, who was there? We haven't had a right winger for 5 to 6 years, and these pundits have the gall to say that we need a number 9 more than any other position in the attacking three. Like, that's what I do not understand. Like, have these people not been watching United? Like, is this what punditry is? Like, I don't get it. Like, one of the people is Paul Scholes, right? He's absolutely the biggest idiot I have seen in the pundits that we have. Another idiot that we have is obviously Ferdinand, where he will put up stuff on Twitter like a fan that has 100 followers. And that's what annoys me. Like, I don't know whether he's with the tweets that he puts out. Obviously the infamous BT Sports PSG celebration where he was like, build a guy a statue, give him an open check or whatever he stupid thing he said. And then there have been lots of moments where we have been linked to players and some story would break out, right? When when United is in discussion, we are always linked to players. And whenever somebody interesting is linked up, Rio Ferdinand will come up with a tweet, it's like a this eye sort of emoji, or he'll be like, "Get this done, Manchester United." Yeah, right. You putting a tweet out is going to let United buy that player. These are stupid things that pundits do, especially concerning United. And then we have people like Tim Sherwood. Yesterday, this brilliant guy, was like, I think United should play Cavani as number 9 and have Anthony Martial play from the left wing because that's where he likes to play. Dude, why the hell are you a pundit for a United game? That's what I don't understand. Anthony Martial categorically said that he doesn't like to play left wing under Mourinho, under Solskjaer. He has said this time and fucking again. And as a number 9, he was the top goal scorer for Manchester United last season, and he did not even take penalties. So, I mean, if you remove Rashford's penalties, that's what I keep saying. If you remove Rashford's penalties, his numbers against Martial look like a joke. And Martial seems to be this most criticized player and the player that, if United don't score or like yesterday's game, right? This is the perfect example, and I actually have the stats for that. Yesterday's game, I felt that Anthony Martial wasn't bad, right? His link up play was good, his hold up play was good. He wasn't getting dominated by their centre backs. These are the things that you would want from your number 9. His runs were good. Obviously, you want your finishers, and there was one obvious chance that Martial missed, and which was like, you know what, there is no way he should not be finishing it. So obviously, you can criticize him all you want for that sort of a finish. And he also happened to have a bad game for France in front of the goal. I mean, he played well, but then he missed like 2 or 3 sitters. So yeah, criticize him for that. But then you can't say that you want to put Cavani up there. Cavani has zero pace, dude. Like, there is no way Cavani is doing the things that Martial is doing. Like, his presence in that position is so important that if you remove him and you put Cavani in there, you're just done. Like, people are saying Cavani is a hard-working player. Wait, what? Yeah, people are saying Cavani is a hard-working player. Yes, he may have run around for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, how much ever time he played. To expect him to do that for 80, 85 minutes is rubbish. And second of all, I'm not saying, see, he's a deadly finisher, right? United have to use Cavani the same way that we used Ibrahimovic, but better. Like, at that time, United obviously had no other centre forwards to, replace him. So it was like Ibra had to basically play every single game. He had to start everything. But right now, I think we can use Cavani very well. And the stat that I was actually going to show was this, right? These are things that people, I don't know if they notice this or they just refuse to like believe in this. I have no bloody idea. And by the way, I don't believe in FootMob's ratings. I just think that they just go for other factors that just like increase or decrease the rating, but they don't actually go for the performances. So I'm saying this considering the fact that they have given 7.7 for Martial, which a lot of other people did not give. But still, I will defend Martial with the stats, right? So, I mean, when I click him, he has to come up. I hope, oh, what the hell is going on? So, I mean, these are stats that are rubbish. I mean, 90 minutes played, yeah, we know that. Total shots, accurate passes, these are not really that important because you can't interpret them very well. And even if you go for like passes inside your own box and stuff, I don't know if that's there or not. I don't think it's there. So the most important thing here, I mean, key passes, yes, but I mean, as a number 9, if you're not going to get any service and if you have to create everything yourself, then Yeah, but yeah, key passes one, I don't really care about that number particularly. This is the most important one for me. Duels won 11. Duels lost 5. 11 out of 16. No other United forward is capable of producing this number. Cavani, yes, maybe. But then when he is going to play 90 minutes, forget it. I mean, dribbles attempted, yeah, this is sort. I mean, what the hell is going on with this website? Yeah, when dribbles attempted, I mean, I'm not really sure how important it is, but yesterday he did have a good percentage, so I am going to talk about it. 6 out of 9, very good. Was fouled 2. Usually Marshall has higher numbers than this. I feel like he was just much better at dribbling yesterday. I think the West Brom defenders weren't good enough at tackling, I'm guessing. What the hell is going on with this website? This is unbelievably bad. My phone app doesn't work this bad. I don't know what's going on with the website. So, and obviously, Ariel's one is another important thing because none of our forwards capable of heading the bloody ball. Cavani obviously is very good. He is god level at that sort of a thing. But then for that single reason, for just the physicality of it, I don't think he should be starting. The only thing I'll talk about with Cavani starting is the fact that Solskjaer has to contemplate two things, right? Actually, two players and the positions. Mata has to be dropped. Not dropped, sorry. And dropped is not a word. He should have never been in the first team in the first place. So forget the word drop. He should not be picked. He should be there in the subs and let him be there. The thing that Sosha has to debate and discuss and like have like meetings about is whether to play Rashford on right wing with Martial on the left and Cavani up front. This cannot be a front three for 60 games a season because Cavani, there is no way he's starting that many games. But this can be a starting lineup for a lot of games. And there'll come a time, obviously, when Greenwood will be back fit again. And at that time, obviously, Greenwood has to be on the right hand side, and you put Rashford on the left or Martial on the left, and the other person up front or Cavani up front. Like, rotation is very important this season. So, you know, we have to consider resting everybody essentially. So every player is important, right? Even your Mata sort of player is important. Your Dan James is important because I think they are capable of some sort of impact. You have to obviously rotate with between Rashford, Martial, and Cavani and Greenwood, and that's obviously going to happen. And that's the same reason I think. That's the same reason I think Pogba, Bruno, and Van der Beek playing two out of the three, or if you're going to play only one out of the three, then rotating the other two is also going to be important because all three of them have very good quality. It's very rare to have these three players, type of players in your team, so or in your squad. So using them is going to be very important. I talked about the fixture list yesterday. I don't remember who all we have. We obviously have Leeds, Sheffield, we have West Ham, and I think we also have like Southampton, apart from Manchester City. So in the next 5 games that United have, we have one Manchester City and 4 other matches that are capable of winning. If we manage to get 4 wins out of the next 5 games, I think we would be at 25 points from 13 games. That is good. That is not great. That is not good in terms of where Manchester United should be. But that is good in terms of where we have been and where we could end up being. And Bamford, this game, I don't know how this game has been till now, but I feel like it has been more of a tactical battle rather than a clear cut sort of. Dude! Oh, good chance for Leeds. Bamford could have done better there. Anyways, yeah, I don't think this game has been like an outright sort of domination by any team. But yeah, it's sort of been a tactical sort of battle. Uh, yeah, so that's it for my review. What else? I mean, yeah, there were few players who did not play all that well. I'm guessing Matic was all right, but the problem is there are few players who were all right. But then, do you want, or are these players capable of producing more than they did yesterday? I mean, you can't expect Matic to do things that Pogba or Van de Beek can. You just cannot expect to do that, or expect him to do that. So, from that sort of a point of view, I'm not exactly sure if criticizing the player's performance, because you can't expect Matic to create. End of discussion. You can't expect Fred to create. Yes, Fred will be very good at the things that he does, but creating is not one of them. So, and I do understand why Solskjaer is picking like two CDMs and playing like the 4-2-3-1, because he's obviously worried about the goals that he will concede. And right. And the only solution I can think of for that is something that I already said yesterday, which was two CDMs, two sort of attacking midfielders, and two forwards. And if you have those two forwards, sort of that sort of a formation, what you can essentially have is Rashford, Martial, Cavani, Greenwood all rotating, with two out of Pogba, Van de Beek, and Bruno in the two attacking midfield positions every game, with people like Mata or like sort of like a Dan James as a wide winger or something like that in the bench. And then you can obviously have two CDMs when Fred and McTominay and Matic, two out of these three. And you can, if you're trying to be, expansive in the way you play, you can play all three of your creative players with only one sitting. And you can still sort of have the same formation. Like, the amount of things that United can play around with this formation is a lot. But the problem is, I don't know if United, the staff, the manager, the assistant, all these players, I don't know if they are thinking of this. The fact that we don't have good wingers. The only good winger we have is Ashford. If you consider Martial, yes, we have two good wingers, both left. Right winger, nobody. I trust Juan Mata to play well for 40% of the games, and to have like, sorry, to play very well in 30% of the games, and to have about 50% of average games, and to have 20% of bad games. And because he doesn't have pace, because he is not physical, because of all these sort of weaknesses, I feel like going for a 4-2 attacking midfielders, two forwards is the way forward, because we have players who are capable of playing in that position, who are capable of performing in that position. Because we don't have wingers, we have to play attacking mids as wide playmakers. It is as simple as that. I mean, it's basically it's the most basic logic in life. If you have a lot of one resource, you have to understand how to use that resource. And if you have a depletion in some other area, you have to figure out a way to manage. It feels like right now United aren't doing that. And this is why I don't understand why Van der Beek is not starting. Surely there has to be a better reason than, what, he's a player that has to adapt to this new country. If you're not going to bloody play him, then how are you going to ever figure out if he is adapting to the game or not? So, I mean, in the games that he has played, there have been moments where he has been good, and there have been like other dull moments, right? I'm not saying that playing Van der Beek and suddenly United will start scoring a lot of goals. That's not going to happen. But at least with him on the pitch, there is a much better chance of United playing well than Mata is. End of discussion. So yeah, I mean, I was going to talk about like the City Spurs game, but I mean that was a Mourinho masterclass. I mean, underline, bold, italics, do whatever you want. But that was a Mourinho masterclass, and that was something that was coming from a mile away. If you do not see that coming from a mile away, then I don't know what game you have been watching, because Son counter-attacking perfect. Harry Kane suddenly has become this complete striker who can create as well as score goals. I mean, and Mourinho has always played a counter-attacking Park Weber sort of way in all of his sides against bigger oppositions. And Manchester City have obviously had troubles creating goals this season and also creating them against a low block. So, I mean, I don't think the result was ever under question. It was just a matter of whether there will be individual errors that will change the game basically. Like if some defender of Spurs had made a stupid tackle inside the box, or if he had like a concentration lapse, that was the only way Manchester City was scoring yesterday. Or if there was a worldie by like a De Bruyne or from like a 40-yard scream or 30-yard screamer or something like that. Apart from that, there was no way Manchester City was scoring yesterday because that's what Mourinho does. And Mourinho is in his second season in Spurs, and he is obviously going to have a good season there. It's just a question of whether they will win something or not. But it is never going to be a question of whether they are going to perform or not, because they are going to. That's just given. So that was one. I'm actually intrigued to. I'm actually sad that I can't see the game, but I'm actually intrigued to see what will happen in the Leicester versus Liverpool, because for some reason, I mean, there have obviously been a lot of memes, right? Towards throughout this week, with the amount of injuries that Liverpool have had, where people are going, what, they are going to play like a 1-4-5 sort of formation, and memes like that have obviously been up and running this week. I'm not exactly certain if Leicester are going to beat Liverpool. I think Liverpool are going to win this game like 3-1 or something. And people are going to be surprised by it. And that's the thing that I don't understand. Like, just because Liverpool are missing a lot of defenders doesn't mean that Vardy is going to score a hat trick today. Like, it may happen, right? I may look like a complete idiot after the game, but I honestly don't think Liverpool are going to lose this game. I don't actually think Liverpool are even going to draw this game, but that might happen. Obviously, there's a much bigger chance of them drawing than them losing. And I feel like Mane is going to step up. Diego Jota is going to step up. I don't know about Roberto Firmino. I mean, I don't watch enough Liverpool games to judge his performances, but obviously his number of goals is mediocre. But if he is performing well, I don't think that number really matters. And I am actually surprised that after 39 minutes in this Leeds versus Arsenal game, this is something that I was looking forward to. And after this recording, I am actually going to watch the second half like peacefully. The thing is, Marcelo Bielsa, I'm going to be honest, I hadn't heard of his name. I mean, I hadn't heard of his achievements before the start of the season. I mean, I had played Football Manager, right? I mean, this Bielsa guy, for some reason, used to have some issue with me now and again. Like in the press conferences, he'd say stuff about my team, about me, and that was sort of the first time I heard of his name. And when obviously Leeds were promoted and everybody was raving about Marcelo Bielsa, my brother basically explained to me the things that he has done, the maniac that he is, the research that he does about the teams, all the things that basically make this guy special, and the people that he has like mentored in his career. So, me or you idiot, who is that idiot? Was that Eileen? What a shit finish. Uh, who that was. So, I mean, obviously, Marcelo Bielsa is a legend, right? And obviously, people have been raving about him. I'm not exactly sure how well his teams have been tactically, because ever since the Liverpool game, I was like, you know what, Leeds are conceding a lot of goals, they're conceding a lot of chances, and that is going to have a negative impact on them. End of discussion. But Having said that, I'm not exactly certain. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, people have to tell me this. Is Bielsa actually doing like tactical masterclasses sort of performances this season? If yes, then this will be a very good battle to watch. This basically Lampard, Arteta, Solskjaer against Bielsa, even Mourinho to an extent, because Spurs versus Leeds, if not for Bielsa, I think Mourinho doesn't park the bus. But because it is Bielsa, I will be interested to see what he does. Similarly, Bielsa versus Ancelotti, because this season we have so many managers of esteem level, Mourinho, Pep, Klopp, Ancelotti, wow. I mean, wow. And you could even add Brendan Rodgers to the list, like in terms of like good managers that we have, like who have some sort of good reputation. And then there are obviously people like Solskjaer, Arteta, and Lampard who are relatively much newer into the thing. Like Solskjaer obviously has a lot of experience managing Molda and you know the youth teams and stuff like that. But then in this sort of a level, apart from Cardiff, this is Manchester United's basically second biggest job, or rather his biggest job, but second big job. So I am interested to see how Leeds and the Bielsa teams are going to play against United, Chelsea, and Arsenal. And it doesn't seem like Leeds are being dominated. If at all, I think this Arsenal Leeds game, actually Leeds are dominating this game. And obviously we can, I mean, I don't believe in stats all that much. I do believe in stats with context, but the stats that are present here, they are not going to give me much of a context to speak of. But what I can say is 13 shots. Wow. But obviously only two on target, so that's not big of a deal. But they're obviously dominating possession with 61 percentage. So that says something. That's interesting actually because I was expecting Arsenal to do much better than they have in that case then. To have 39 percentage of possession against any team, let alone a team which is not a big, not a top six club, I feel like that's a disappointment. That's a disappointment from everybody's point of view. And I'm actually like kind of interested to watch AFTV at the moment because I want to know what those people are thinking about this team's performance. Because I don't know if Hugh Wizzy is live. I have to check. If he is live, then he was one of the people who was raving about Bielsa. So I'm actually interested to see what his opinions are of this game, this first half, because the few glances that I have had of the game, I felt like Leeds are, I wouldn't say they are dominating, but they are creating moments. So yeah, that will be interesting. Uh, that's all for this sort of a video. I don't know what else to talk about. I have talked about a lot of things. Pundits, like Gary Neville is good, right? His punditry is good a lot of the times. But even him, along with all the United people, I don't know what this Martial thing is. Like nobody bloody questions Rashford's performances. Nobody is questioning Van Bissaka's performances. Like he has not been good this season. At least he hasn't been the same player that he was last season. And oh, that's bad. So I don't know if this is English bias or I don't know what they don't like about Martial. Like, yeah, I do understand that Martial can come across as a person who is lazy, but he is not lazy. The amount of grass he covers, people don't realize that. And another problem that Martial has is the fact that he's a number nine. There is no space for a number nine. Like a number nine can't do anything. Like the reason Greenwood was playing well as a right winger was because of the amount of space that he had, amount of time he had. Center forwards don't get that. And Another problem that they have is the service. A number nine can't run from the own penalty box to the opposition penalty box and score. He can't do that. I mean, he can do that at times. There will be opportunities for that, but on a general like average 90 minutes sort of game, your midfielders and your fullbacks and all these wingers, all these people have to create for the number nine. And yesterday, obviously, there was a one good chance at him. I'm not going to deny that. But apart from that, if you're not going to create chances, then how are you going to like? How can you dare criticize a centre forward? That's what I don't understand. And his movements were good. His gameplay was good. His coordination play was good. And yet he was criticized. Rashford wasn't. So that's the problem that I have. Like even Pogba in this discussion, right? Pogba gets a lot of stick, but the fact of the matter is he was our best player statistically across everything. Defense, attacks, goals, assists, everything. He was our best player, I think, the season before last, and also the one before that, or his first season, one of those basically. He has had like a couple of seasons like this where he was basically a best player doing everything, and he was still criticized. So, I mean, obviously, right? As I said, stats without context is meaningless, and the context is obviously the fact that Pogba was very good for a period of time, a big chunk of time, and he was poor for a large amount of other times, and that obviously is worthy of criticism, but not to the extent that people want him sold. You don't want to sell your best player, dude. That's just completely unacceptable. And I mean, right now the situation is slightly different, but yeah. So I don't understand this pundits sort of like what they have against Martial. And whenever he plays well, the problem is whenever he plays well, and he scores a goal or something like that, right? That's obviously the time they're going to praise him. What they say is this is a common theme that I've noticed. What they say is yeah, Martial had a very good game. We all know the talent that he has. The only question is his consistency. Yeah, bloody hell. He scored like 24, 23 goals. So he scored like 20 goals from mid-November to March, and then after lockdown, whatever the time he played. And basically, United was shit when he was not available. Rashford was shit when Martial was not available, and then he was brilliant again after Martial came back. Because there was Martial to play at number nine, Rashford was able to play on the left and play well. This is not something that people give credit for to Martial, and that's what like sickens me to death. Like sometimes I don't understand the criticism, right? But yeah, this is just completely unacceptable. Anyways, that's all for this video. It has been far too long than I actually intended it to be, but that's how it is. So if you have reached till here, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also share the content because the more people that watch, the more the scope for criticism, advice, appreciation, stuff like that. So share the content, and thank you so much for watching. And stay with the channel. There are a lot of cool stuff coming up, and if you visit the playlist sort of thing, you will see the things that are already up on the channel and the potential things coming up. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.